So it's been over a year since the landmark Supreme Court case District of Columbia versus Heller. What have been the practical ramifications of this case in the interim?
Many Chicago suburbs have dropped their local handgun bans rather than fight a costly lawsuit with local gun owners and the National Rifle Association. The city of Chicago has decided to dig in and fight. This will likely lead to its own Supreme Court case, which will weigh the question of incorporation of the Second Amendment against states and localities via the 14th Amendment. If the Supreme Court accepts incorporation of the Second Amendment via the 14th and strikes down the Chicago ban, more lawsuits can be expected against New York City and the state of California.
What remains to be done in Washington, D.C.?
While the right to keep arms in working order in the home has been secured in Washington, D.C., the right to actually bear arms, that is to say carry them on one's person, whether concealed or open, still remains infringed. 41 states have some form of concealed carry, but Washington, D.C. does not. Some states even permit open carry of handguns, though as a personal matter, I tend to prefer concealed carry and view it as more realistic in the legislative arena and the court of public opinion.
Are all concealed permits reciprocally recognized in other states with permit systems?
No, not at all. The website handgunlaw.us should be carefully consulted before beginning any interstate trip with a concealed firearm. Some states do honor reciprocity, but not all of them do.
What is the distinction between may issue and shall issue with respect to concealed carry permit systems?
Shall issue means the state must issue a concealed carry permit to a lawful applicant if it cannot find any legitimate legal reason to deny the applicant. May issue leaves the discretion to the arbitrary whim of the local county sheriff, whose decision is not subject to any kind of appeals process. In the case of New York City, only prominent wealthy citizens can actually reliably obtain a concealed carry permit, while the majority of the city's residents are routinely denied.
Does the U.S. Constitution grant rights to citizens?
This is a common misunderstanding. The U.S. Constitution recognizes pre-existing human rights that all humans have by virtue of being human. Some proclaim such rights come from God, but as an atheist, I simply say they are inherent in every human being. The Constitution pledges the U.S. government to protect these rights, but human rights belong to everyone. To change the subject from the Second to the First Amendment, the First Amendment guarantees that the Congress shall pass no law establishing religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, and provides for the people to peaceably assemble to petition the government for a redress of grievances. But our understanding of the human right of self-expression really transcends this. Well, the same is true of the human right of self-defense. Firearms happen to be one of the most effective tools for securing that right in the face of those who would do harm to us.
I believe it was our own Eric Blair, aka George Orwell, who said something to the effect that civilization exists to the extent that there are enough men who are willing to do violence on behalf of the citizen.
That's a good point, but I would take it a step further. The responsibility for self-defense ultimately lies with the individual. Police forces are seldom in a position to repel or prevent a criminal assault. Their usual function is to investigate crimes after the fact and then collect evidence, arrest likely suspects, and turn them over for a state prosecution of their alleged crimes. Police are not legally obligated to respond to 911 calls, either, a fact which many U.S. citizens are not even aware of. While concealed carry remains an unfinished project, self-defense of one's home is nearly universally protected in the United States, which is sadly not always the case in Great Britain.
Yes, regrettably UK firearms laws have drifted quite a long way away from Blackstone's ideals. Scottish devolution, ironically, led not to an increase in freedom for Scots, but rather a push for even stricter gun control measures than even London wanted, supported even by the Conservative SNP.
As a Scottish American, that really bothers me, since, given their histories, the Scots and also the Irish should darn well know better.
I understand, but I really don't know what else to say. Anyway, thanks for answering my questions on the American situation.
Thanks for asking and for taking an interest in these matters.